What does intergenerational worship mean to you, and why is it important for your church community?
For us, intergenerational worship is absolutely vital. It's not an all age. All age suggests that everyone is brought in together from outside places, and then they meet together, do something, and then they kind of all disperse again. But for us, intergenerational means that the worship, every single part of the worship should be accessible to people of every single age. It's a really lofty ambition to try and do that, but the idea is that we all worship together. And so people of different ages can participate in different parts of the service. People of different ages can go into the side room when we have a breakout group. It's not just about 5-year-olds go into the side room, 95-year-olds can stay in the church. Anybody of any age
being together, really.
can be together and worship together and learn together and grow together.
Oh, it sounds so lovely. Thank you. Is there any way you're trying to bring in new communities to your church, and how are you kind of doing that? And are there any tips maybe that you're thinking would be a good sort of successful way of doing that?
So something that we're really passionate about is that we're not just intergenerational, but we're also intercultural. I would really love for this church to be a place where anybody from anywhere could come in and feel, oh yeah, this is a place where I belong. This is where I recognize things from my own culture. I can see, oh, we pray like this at home, or those kind of things. So for me, people from Southmead come from all over the world. We've got the hospital just right on our doorstep. And so it's a very multicultural kind of place, and it's growing in multiculturalism all the time. And so if we stay still, we will end up as an enclave. So we actually have to embrace the culture and the different cultures that Southmead is becoming, and the changing face of Bristol, I suppose, and how it's changing for the better. But we also have to acknowledge that this church is for everybody. It's not just for a particular group of people who've always worshipped in this place since the church came into being in 1959.
Yeah, that's so lovely. It's about making the church a space where everyone feels welcome, whoever they are, really.
And that's why our space inside the church, we have a large toddler corner with toys. Every single service we have different crosswords and colouring puzzles and things that people can make within the service. We often have a challenge. So one day we were talking about Esther, and we had a feast at the front. And so we had a big table, and children were drawing their favourite food and getting involved, and we were talking about our favourite food. Another time we did John the Baptist, and we had locusts. We were making locusts, but we also had honey to try, and there was all sorts of different things going on to make it more of a sensory exploration of the Bible. But it's more interesting for everybody. It's not just children. It's for everybody. Everybody wants to come in and find something that's relevant to them in church on a Sunday morning. They don't want to think, oh, well,
this is something I've got to do, they should want to come to church.
And church should be fun. God is fun. He created the world in an amazing way, and so church should be fun. So we use things like Noah's Ark, and we've got, I don't know if you can see Jonah and the whale. We try to do different things. We've got an amazing art and craft club, and they make things for us. It's everybody together. The art and craft club are generally people who are over 50, but they make things to make our services more interesting. And we also have our planning time for the services within the Arts and Craft Club once a month. And so they sit there and they give us creative ideas, and they think of craft activities that we could do. And they often give me some of the best ideas for sermon illustrations, just by sitting around a table, having a cup of tea, and they're all doing their crochet and making felt fruits and things.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, they're currently making a harvest festival wreath. We're in the summer, and they're making their harvest festival wreath. But
very prepared for harvest.
Very prepared. And last February they started making the nativity figure, and so we've got nativity figures that are about this big, which live on the altar during Advent. So and the three kings move around, and sometimes they've been in the front windows, and the shepherds are kind of there, and it's all, the idea is that it's a sort of feast for the eyes as well for everyone that comes in. So things change on a regular basis, but the service is always fairly similar. So we always start in the same way. We always have a time of thanks at the beginning where we pass the microphone around and we say, would anyone like to thank God for something? And you pass the microphone around, and it's a way that people share news with one another. And so you might get a 5-year-old saying, I thank God that school's finished for the year, or you might get a 16-year-old saying, I finished my GCSEs, or you might get an 85-year-old saying, I've got a new grandchild, or that, it's all part of
just talking about
praise.
their life, really, and giving praise to God.
And people have said that they think that that's one of the best parts of our service. We're not just sharing news, we're also praising God for the good things that He gives us in our lives. We always have a welcome, and then we have a song for everyone to kind of gather, and for the latecomers to come and find their seats and things. Then we have a time of thanks, so we go around and speak to people, as I've mentioned, and people take the microphone. And often we get guests and new people coming, and they grab the microphone and they want to be part of it too.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So that's wonderful. We then have Bible and a sermon of some sort. We try to make it as interactive as possible. And within that time, we also have our confession. We've recently started ringing a bell for a time of silence. So this is an aid memoir for children and for everyone to know that this is when we have our time of silence and we think about the ways that we've turned against God in the last week. There's so much else happening in the church, and there's children. We have a lot of children with additional needs, and so they do sometimes move around a bit more than other people might. But in that time, when we ring the bell, we do have a moment of silence, normally about a minute, and that's really precious to have that. After the sermon, we often have a response time, maybe something practical. People can either maybe come and collect something or bring a prayer. There's all sorts of different responses we have. We try to keep it kind of fresh and try to keep it interesting. After that, we will always have our prayers, and they're often led by families. The Bible reading is often done by children. We also have help with our confession. During our news items, we always end with the words, has anybody had a birthday this week? And that person, if they would like to, gets to wear the birthday hat.
That's amazing.
And we all sing happy birthday. And for some people, it might be the only time when anyone wishes them a happy birthday. So it's really great to involve people and include people in that way. We always have an offertory song just straight after the piece. So we share the piece and then we have an offertory song. And then we have a communion together. We celebrate communion together every single week. We sometimes have a shorter version of a communion. We sometimes have a slightly longer version of the communion, but we always celebrate communion together. Then we have a song at the end of communion or going through communion, which leads to a second song, and that song is our final hymn or song of the day. And then we have our peace, and then everyone goes and has coffee. So that's the kind of the shape of the service. It's not rocket science. It's not different from how other people do it. We just try to make the elements within the service user-friendly, accessible, but also understandable for people.
It sounds like a really lively and happening community, and you talked a little bit about how children are really involved in the life of your church. How has that been for you, and how can you encourage more young people to take on these volunteer roles in your church?
We try and get children to do the readings. We try and have children on the welcome. We also try and have them helping with the coffee and things like that. Some people aren't so keen on the children helping with the coffee, but they can definitely arrange the biscuits on a plate. It's just being part of serving, and everyone serves together. They also get involved with helping with the prayers. So often a parent will bring their child up and then they will lead the prayers together. But I think it's really important that children learn to serve. They learn that this is a part of our faith that we share with one another. And also it's not about how old you are. You can have an amazing revelation from God at a very young age. Age is not important, but what is important is our heart and how we feel about God. We also are trying to move people into leadership roles. So we have a youth group, and one of them is getting on the older side for the youth group, but he actually would make an amazing leader. So he's currently thinking about helping with the leadership of the youth. And we took a couple of young people to Spree, and we specifically asked them to come as leaders. And so that they could help out and they could kind of cast an eye out for the younger children. And the younger children would much rather hang out with them than any of the adults. They're much cooler than we are, and they can play football for hours on end. So there's always advantages. We also have a Nintendo Switch that the children can use. So if their parents are serving and maybe clearing up after church and stuff, we've got a Switch that during the winter months they will often play with. And so it means that they're not just hanging around going, when can we go home, Mum, or that kind of thing. But it means that the parents are freer to serve or chat or do whatever they need to. And in this lovely weather, the children play football outside, or they go outside and play together. And we've recently had a fence, not that fence, this fence. We've had a fence put up around our church garden, which means that it's now a safe place for children to play, and we can shut the gates and they can use it. So we've got quite a good sized garden and a good sized space for people to play in. As our kind of green elements, we have bird feeders, and we've got a bug church, and all of that kind of thing around the corner. And we're trying to be an eco church, and we're trying to encourage the children to think about those kind of things and caring for our planet.
Yeah, and sort of like biodiversity and how children can really just get involved with nature, really.
Yeah, and we also support as a church a project called the Ripple Effect. It used to be called Send a Cow, but through our support we're able to send money to communities out in Uganda, and then they help them to grow gardens. So our garden is twinned with a garden in another country, and so we're kind of, it's garden twinning is great.